Good afternoon. It's Thursday, August 2. I'm Vashan Brown with the Midday News. Special welcome if you're watching on onespotmedia.com. Chairman of the Spectrum Management Authority, Trevor Forrest, has resigned. His resignation follows public outcry from the opposition, civil society and private sector groups after it was revealed that he attempted to insert the resume of Carolyn Warren into a recruitment process at the Spectrum Management Authority after the process was well advanced. Here's TVJ's O'Shane Masters with the latest.
News came Thursday morning that Mr. Forrest had resigned. He is the latest casualty in the saga surrounding the once Energy, Science and Technology Ministry, which was led by Dr. Andrew Wheatley. In his resignation letter dated Tuesday, July 31, obtained by TVJ News, Mr. Forrest stated, quote, "In the best interest of the impeccable record of the Spectrum Management Authority, the government of Jamaica, and more so the people of Jamaica, who I ultimately serve, I hereby tender my resignation as chairman of the board of directors of the Spectrum Management Authority with effect at 5 p.m. end quote. He also expressed regret for any damage his actions may cause. In the meantime, public affairs commentator Dr. Paul Ashley has called for Mr. Forrest to resign from all boards.
He should resign from all boards and advisory positions in the government. He cannot confine it only to the Spectrum Authority because the malfeasance is systemic.
But with the resignation of Mr. Forrest, who will act in the interim as board chairman? That question was put to Director of Communications in the Office of the Prime Minister, Robert Morgan.
Well, there is still a board, and I suspect there is a deputy chairman of the board. I cannot confirm, but logic would dictate that the deputy chairman would step in the interim.
The deputy chairman of the SMA is controversial human resource manager of Petrojam, Yolanda Ramaharak. In that regard, Dr. Ashley said an investigation is needed.
There needs to be a serious investigation in respect of the multiplicity of roles these individuals play in the current administration. Indeed, it seems to me that the cancer has spread.
O'Shane Masters, TVJ News.
Meanwhile, the parliamentary opposition says the entire board of the Spectrum Management Authority should resign.
I think it is only fair that the Prime Minister should ask all the boards today to resign. A new minister is going to take over the responsibility. So I think all the boards should tender their resignation and new boards appointed using some of the recommendations that the civil society people have put forward.
About how many boards we're talking about then?
There are
10, 15?
Yes, about 10, 15, about 15 boards, yes.
Right.
The Spectrum Management Authority is dear to me because, we established that as a center of excellence for the management of Spectrum. It is used by other Caribbean countries as a center of excellence. So I think we really have to reestablish its position, its integrity as quickly as possible.
And Mr. Paulwell was speaking on RGR's and the JNN's hotline interface this morning. There may be hope for persons seeking compensation for the effects of the latest fire at the Riverton City disposal site. Public Defender Arlene Harrison Henry has revealed that she has already initiated court action on behalf of persons affected by previous fires at that dump and other facilities. She says her office has been receiving complaints from those affected by this week's fire.
People have come to our office in respect of respiratory distress, asthma, bronchitis, and our office is open. We have other matters arising or other claims arising from other fires. And those matters, some of them are in court where the complainants to us want to pursue the matter in court.
After the fire at the Riverton City disposal site was extinguished, thick smoke lingered over several sections of the corporate area. Residents of communities surrounding the dump reported spending thousands of dollars on medical bills after experiencing respiratory problems. They have been demanding compensation. And the results of air quality tests conducted earlier this week in the corporate area during the Riverton fire should be ready today. The data will be sent to the National Environment and Planning Agency.
What it will really tell you is whether or not, one, the air quality was that bad. And, to say, for example, what we have now for the indicator mere pollutants would be PM10. And on within any given 24 hours, PM10 must not exceed 150 micrograms per meter cube. That's just a figure, a standard, right? So we want to look to see if that was exceeded. If that was exceeded, it means what it would have meant is that you would have resident persons who are pretty much predisposed to respiratory illnesses would be the most likely ones to be affected firstly, and so forth. So this will just give us an indication of the likely impact on the health.
2 additional air quality monitors were deployed to Duane Park, St. Andrew, and Waterford in St. Catherine to assist with data collection. The Nurses Association of Jamaica, NAJ, is agitating for the biological testing of nurses at the Cornwall Regional Hospital in St. James to begin soon. The epidemiological study commissioned by the Ministry of Health will assess the impact of the poor air quality on the main building at the hospital. NAJ President Carmen Johnson says while the association awaits the start of the study, almost a dozen nurses who are seriously ill continue to worry about the long-term implications. Ms. Johnson says the concern was expressed to Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton last week. She says Dr. Tufton gave a commitment that efforts will be made to fast-track the testing.
What he did say was that the team has been put together to carry out the investigation, and they are working out their terms of reference. What we ask for is that for our members who are severely affected, which is about 10 or 11 of them, that we can't sit and wait for the COR and for the team to get ready to conduct the investigation, but for these members to be treated immediately so that we can seek to see what is happening with them and to mitigate whatever health impact they may have and to stem it and to see how we make their health status a bit better and to make life more bearable for them. That he did speak with the Chief Medical Officer of Health and ask her to see how soon they can fast-track the investigation.
She says the seriously ill nurses are carrying out duties. However, at times they are forced to take sick days because of the flare-up in symptoms, including muscle weakness, joint pain, and difficulty breathing. The residents of Broadleaf community in Manchester are this afternoon appealing to the authorities to not relocate their post office. They're suggesting a new one be built instead. We have more in this report.
Just like several rural communities in Jamaica, the Broadleaf community in Manchester will soon be without a post office. The residents have been served notice for the closure. Effective July 31, they will have to travel to Porus to use the service, but the Broadleaf residents are not pleased with the decision.
I can call today post missus. Is there any letter for me? She say yes or no. She will send it or somebody go and collect it for me. No, a 93-year-old old woman could go walk up Porus with 2 letters. Me can't see, me can't hardly sign anything. What can I do? It's a shame. It's a shame. A little post office into a district like this.
Despite the fact that the existing structure is in a deplorable condition, the residents argue that a postal agency is critical in the area. They say removing the post office will also affect neighboring communities such as Comfort, Trinity, Brahampen, Bartleytown, Webbers, and Hampton, particularly the elderlies of these districts. The people insist that it is better to build a new structure to facilitate the service.
We want a new structure here, so you cannot move it and remain here. So you cannot move. Because some of them have to depend on something and then can, or had advise them have to ask somebody to collect it for them.
Very difficult for people to leave here. Other areas as well, to go to Porus to collect mails because that's going to cost about $1,000. Go and come. Right? And it's not easy. Some of the people cannot really afford it. Who can do so, it's still stiff for them to do.
Please, I'm asking him immediately to come and fix it.
Andrew Laidley, TVJ News.
Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton says work is progressing on a national health insurance scheme. He says teams are looking at healthcare financing and the implementation of the scheme. Dr. Tufton noted that since he became Minister of Health in 2016, a workshop was held where stakeholders from different Caribbean countries were brought together under the patronage of the Pan American Health Organization to assess the critical components of healthcare financing that would play a part in the success of such a scheme. Following this, the Ministry of Health embarked on a study. The study, the minister says, is near completion in terms of the proposals for a national health insurance scheme. Dr. Tofton says studies have been done on the composition and the structure of healthcare with regional health authorities, reviewing their performance over the years and looking at whether there should be changes. News overseas now. U.S. President Donald Trump and his political and legal teams are mounting an extraordinary escalation of his attacks against the special counsel's investigation. This is an apparent sign of increased worry among his allies that Robert Mueller's findings could potentially be deeply damaging to the president. Trump issued his most explicit and public call on Wednesday. The details from the CNN.
It's my great honor to be here today.
President Trump dramatically escalating his attack on the Russia probe today, explicitly calling on Attorney General Jeff Sessions to shut it down. After railing against Special Counsel Robert Mueller's investigation for more than a year,
total witch hunt.
The president taking an extraordinary step further by asking to end an inquiry that involves him. This is a terrible situation, and Attorney General Jeff Sessions should stop this rigged witch hunt right now, before it continues to stain our country any further, the president saying on Twitter. White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders defending the president's statement, saying he was offering his own view of the investigation.
It's not an order, it's the president's opinion, and it's ridiculous that all of the corruption and dishonesty that's gone on with the launching of the witch hunt.
But the president's call to end the investigation took his criticism to a new level. The special counsel is already looking into Trump's tweets as part of a potential obstruction of justice probe.
The president is not obstructing, he's fighting back. The president is stating his opinion.
Yet it's an open question where a presidential opinion ends and a presidential directive begins.
When he tells you something as a member of his staff, how do you know if it's a directive from the president or if it's simply his opinion?
The president makes it pretty clear when I'm having those conversations with him.
The president's lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, echoed the defense.
He's established a clear sort of practice now that he expresses his opinions on Twitter. He used the word should, he didn't use the word must, and there was no presidential directive that followed it.
Still overseas, it's being called a miracle. An Aeromexico jet crashes and burns near an airport in Mexico, and somehow all 103 people on board managed to escape with their lives before fire engulfed the airplane. The details from the CNN.
Seconds after takeoff, impact, screams, and panic as passengers shifted into survival mode to escape the flames and the smoke of the fallen plane in Durango, Mexico. All 103 people aboard Aeromexico Flight 2431 survived.
I've always been the type of person that say, never take your life for granted, life goes by too fast, but I'd never had a reason to say it until now.
Ashley Garcia was the one to capture it all on her cell phone. She was one of at least 65 U.S. citizens on board. Garcia lives in Chicago and decided to get video of the plane taking off after noting the rain and the clouds coming her way.
We were not even in the air for like 5 seconds when the wind just pushed us right back down, and we kind of were just bouncing up and hitting each other. And then as soon as the plane, one of the wings hit the ground, that's when it caught on fire.
It was basically just a mad dash for the door as people were trying to escape.
Al Herrero, a passenger who also lives in Chicago, immediately turned to those who needed help getting out, including the elderly.
My injuries were very, very small compared to others with broken hands and broken noses. There was a lot of blood everywhere. So, yeah, I'm very fortunate.
Once off the plane, he says he joined a priest who was on board in prayer.
Oh. And time now for sports. Portmore United will take a 1-goal advantage into their return leg round of 16 tie against AD Santos after clipping the Costa Rican side 2-1 in their away fixture of the Scotiabank CONCACAF League on Wednesday night at the National Stadium of Costa Rica. Javon East opened the scoring for Portmore United after 14 minutes before Malik Foster doubled that lead 4 minutes later. Portmore then conceded a penalty in the 80th minute, which was converted by Pablo Irboin. The return leg is set for the National Stadium on August 9. And that's the Midday News. I'm Vashon Brown. Join us at 7 for Primetime News Package. On behalf of the news, sports and production teams, have a good afternoon and have a great week.